recap we have learned in Redux, right? तो उसका एक quick recap कर लेते हैं. Alright, so again, what's Redux? If I ask you a small question, कि how would you define Redux? What is it? क्या है Redux? Library? Okay. I mean, technically correct answer. What else? What else? Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say if I ask you what use effect is, right? What use effect is? You will tell me कि this is a hook, right? That manages side effects, right? If I ask you what use ref is, you will tell me कि again this is a hook which references DOM elements, right? Mostly ऐसी चीज में use है, right? If I ask you what is use state, right? You'll tell me again this is a hook, right? What is it used for? Re-render or managing state, and based on what state is re-rendering stuff. Like if I ask you what dot map is, what will you say? It's a method. It's a method function rather specifically for array, right? उसी तरीके से if I again ask you what is Redux, what will you say? Very good. Vishal, ekdam correct. You'll say it's kind of a global state management, no? Right? Use state was local state management. It was just managing state in a certain component. But with respect to Redux, you can send it anywhere, right? So it manages state globally. You can say it's global state management system. Clear? Clear? Because again, if I tell you about use reducer, my bad. So again, for use reducer, you won't say it's a global state management tool. You'll still say it's a state management tool, but for complex states, right? वहीं पे Redux will be your global state management tool. So yeah, it's a library. That's correct. And while being library, it's also a global state management tool. So now again, let's see what global state management means. If I have a feature of global state management, will I not have any need of prop drilling or state upliftment? उसकी कोई need नहीं होगी, right? And if I don't need stuff like that, will the like complex situation of my application wherein I have some complex stuff, will that decrease? Prop drilling say I'll write more cleaner code, right? So that's one way of doing it. But let's say if you wanna create a Redux setup, let's say you have this Redux setup. What are the things that it comprises of? किस चीज से बना होता है Redux setup? What is it formed of? Three fundamental stuff we talked about. Yes, yes, right. So one, you have two, and you have three. Right? I hope you get why I have made the middle one bigger. So first, you have to define the actions, right? So you will define what actions you have, right? Right? And what are these actions? What are these actions? I mean, variables you create karte, that are not, those are not actions, right? Those are just definitions. The actions are object, right? With a type and when needed payloads, right? But what directly एक object नहीं है. These guys are functions that return these objects, right? Correct. Functions है जो कि return करते हैं these objects. तो again at the end if I tell you कि finally क्या output देगा ये action, तो it's gonna be this object. Correct है? Correct. Then what's the second thing? Reducer. What does reducer do? What does reducer do? Primarily इसके पास global state है, right? काफी छोटा हो जाएगा ये. Let's make it in this one. It has global state. Usually we define it as init state, right? You can name it anything, but usually we go with this and it's an object, right? एक object होता है, एक object होता है. Then you have the reducer function, which basically holds all the logics based on type, or I can directly say action, right? And this action के अंदर you can have both things, type and payload, right? तो ये modification होता है, ये modification होता है. Again, is there a rule with respect to this modification? छोटा सा rule है. What I mean by that is whenever you are writing a return for a switch case, right? Do you directly update the state, right? You directly update the state or you make a copy of it first? Copy of it, ये याद है, right? So it returns a copy of state, right? And to make a copy of state, we have to again entirely define the object, put everything that was present in initial object, and then finally update our object. Yes, that is what we were doing. And then finally, what do we have over here? Finally, store. So we have store. What does store do? Store here. Create store reducer. Okay. So it basically creates store or storage for the global state. And isn't this store is the only thing that is like shared with the app that you want directly, right? ठीक है. So this was the overall structure of Redux. Then I mean you guys understand कि we go and attach this store with what your app dot yes attach नहीं wrap करते हैं, wrap app dot like app component, right? With the help of provider and all. But वो छोटी सी चीज है. For now, this is what overall structure of Redux is, right? अच्छा. Have you learned something else aside from this? Anything else? What is it? और क्या सीखा? Combine reducer, right? Basically, there is a possibility that there will be. I hope the diagram is visible. यार ये वाला box सबको visible है कि it's just visible to me like the chats and all? It is okay. चलो. So I'm just gonna call this one R1 and this one R2. Right? So you have reducer 1 and reducer 2, but something's missing over here. How many store do we have? Reducer चाहे कितने भी हो जाए, how many stores do we have? Right? Always remember, Redux जो है ना, it's gonna create one store only, right? You won't be needing multiple stores. ठीक? So if I go back over here, right? Again, I'm not sure if I can correctly pick it. ठीक है, I'll try. हाँ. So this store will be something जो कि common होगा both end पे, right? Both end पे the store is gonna be common, right? And they could have made it a bit further. It is थोड़ा सा आगे ले चलते हैं. ठीक है. If this wrap app component is visible. ठीक है. So now let's make it smaller. ठीक है. Alright. And there's one small step that is done over here, wherein we basically use something which is called combine reducer. Right? And this combine reducer combines the reducer and provide those reducer in that form. Right? Root store, whatever you want to call it. Clear? So this is what we used to do. Right? Now, once you combine this reducer, right? Don't you think कि actions and like if there's just one store, the global state या फिर global state management जो Redux का बोलते हैं, that is gonna get combined also. Makes sense? Makes sense. What I mean is कि let's say you had यहाँ पे you had let init state equals to यहाँ पे you had a as 1, right? And over here you had again same thing, but यहाँ पे b as 1, right? So hypothetically what will happen once the reducers are combined, this logic is combined even, right? And you'll have a one global state, right? जिसमें everything will be present, including these reducers also, right? So if the store is just one and it's combining all the code in it, how will I identify कि मुझे किस reducer में call करना था? What I mean by that is, remember how do we retrieve data from Redux? So let's say Redux to application, and there is application to Redux. How does this happens? Redux से app में if you want to get the data. Redux से app में we want to get the data. Use combinator. क्या था? Use nth child. What was it? Use selector. क्या था? I mean you guys decide. मैं नहीं बता रहा. Use selector. Use combinator और कुछ लगाना है? Use flex. Whichever one you think, just pick one. How do you send data to Redux? अरे Redux to Redux नहीं. App. From app to Redux, how do you do that? You use dispatch. Use dispatch. Right? So once you start using use selector, right? Use selector, what it gives state in it. Remember? I mean, we'll do it again, don't worry, but एक बार थोड़ा सा quickly, you get state from it. Now, from this state, if you want to get a specific data, what you'll have to first do is, you'll have to write state and then define which reducer were you getting this data from. And then you provide whatever data point that you need. But think about this, whenever you do dispatch, do you give it instruction कि आपको किस reducer में जाना है? Here we are giving it specific like instruction किया, you have to visit this reducer and then get the data. Are we doing something like that over here? No? Is there an identifier? Very good, Vikram. Very good, Sepal. Ashutosh, very good. So basically, dispatch में for sure we are at least passing the action, no? Right? And this action में there is an identifier which is called type. Right? So this type will basically define how do you dispatch, right? But again, think about it. Let's say you are like two people are working on like same project, right? Construct week chal raha hai, you guys are working on same project. One of you guys have created one action, one of you guys has created another action, right? आपको क्या मिला है? आपको मिला है एक बंदे को दे हैव टू क्रिएट कमेंट सिस्टम एंड अनदर गाय हैज टू क्रिएट पोस्ट सिस्टम, राइट? पोस्ट, नॉट पोस्ट मेथड, पोस्ट करना, राइट? लाइक posting on a platform. So again, this also has CRUD in it, this also has CRUD in it, right? And given that in evaluations also we don't follow naming convention very well, so is there very high chance ki if they want to add a comment they are going to name it as add? और यहाँ पे भी same, there's a possibility, high possibility actually, right? हम लोगों ने उसको add ही नाम दे दिया. So in this case, are you not confusing your dispatch कि where do I want to go, this one ki this one, right? Because at the end the reducers are going to get combined, right? Right? So would it make sense if I write all the actions in same file only? Make sense? Make sense, right? But do I need to write reducers in same file? Not exactly, right? Because they have different separate logics. So I would rather keep them separate. So to prevent confusion, I would rather have actions same way in same place. So, but reducers can be separate and then they can be combined using combined reducer. Yes. All right. So this is what overall Redux is. Overall, बस यही है Redux, right? So now let's do this quick recap in code also. But before going on, let's decide on an application and how many reducers do we need in that. Yes, तो बताओ कोई simple application which we can create via Redux, or at least we'll be needing Redux. To do फिर से counter and theme, ठीक है? मैं बोलूँ कुछ नया बोलूँगा, कुछ नया सोचो. I mean, अच्छा म्यूजिक ऐप इतना भी बड़ा नहीं कि we can't even create it in session because I'll take 1 hour for a new topic which is called middlewares, right? तो ये भी डिस्कस करना है. Fine. चलो let's do library management, right? Let's do library management, ठीक है? Alright. So what things will we need in an application like this? Let's say route wise क्या क्या चाहिए होगा? पहला तो एक route will need for form, right? Creating books. Yes. And then one route will need for showing books, right? And एक चीज थोड़ा separate रखते हैं so that we can create a separate reducer for it actually. What can it be? Like over here, I can have यहाँ पे तो we can have CRUD based reducer, right? Create, read, update, and delete a specific thing. Over here, we can have a theme also. So we'll have एक तो we'll have books reducer and we'll have theme reducer. Can we have anything else? अच्छा चलो we'll see, we'll start creating and अगर बीच में कुछ आता है तो maybe we'll do it. Store reducer, store reducer. Not sure. चलो देखते हैं, बनाते बनाते देखते हैं. If something comes up in mind, we'll basically take it up. ठीक है, चलो let's first quickly get back to application, right? And over here, let's do the basic setup. Let me put chat. एक second, I need some space over here. ठीक है, so D3 src app.js6. Yes, we'll remove this and we'll clear this also and we'll clear this also. ठीक है, so first thing first, we need to set the routes up. with the navigation bar? Quickly. So do we need to install something or we can just directly do it? I mean, I need quick answers so that we can move quickly. Okay? Because I already have forgotten all the libraries. React router DOM. So I should do npm I react router DOM. Is this it? Okay. Okay. What else might we need? और क्या चाहिए होगा? Import. All right. Chalo, let's do one more thing. Uh, let's do the updates with Firebase also. Right? Let's update our books on database also. Right? So we'll need Axios, npmi Axios. What else? React Redux. Yeah, of course. React Redux the JM. Right? So meanwhile, we can clear all this. We don't need either. And chalo, so routes are installed. So we'll start installing the routes. Now we'll get the routes, right? Where do I import routes from? My where do we import routes from? React route to DOM. All right. So we'll import routes from React router DOM. What else do we need over here? Route. All right. Okay. So let's have route also. We'll need 3 routes. Right. We'll need 3 routes. And over here, let's go and create those 3 components real quick. So components, and we'll need form dot jsx. We'll need display dot jsx, and we need sorry, let's have a wish list. Wish list dot jsx. Right? I guess store say maybe आपका मतलब wish list is maybe. ठीक है. And let's quickly give them some basic data. So display, and this will be return h2, that will be display. Just copy this, paste, move all that. Yeah. This will be form. And wish list, same thing. Wish list. All right. Okay. Now, how did we create routes? Routes start कैसे करते थे? First thing first, do we need a landing page? A page where user might by default land. So for now, let's keep it form. So how should I do that? Is it to or is it path? Path. Okay. And just this. Then it's component or element? Element. Okay. So element. And what's the element that we want? We want the form to be over here. Okay. Second path will be data, right? Or I can call it books. So element will be, this will be क्या है नाम? Display. All right. And finally we have path, which will be wish list. Wish list element, which will be wish list. Take it. All right. Now second step will be slash wish list. Yeah. Second step will be make navbar. But if I open it, don't you think अभी error आ रहा होगा, एक छोटा सा error? Yes, we have to wrap our app. So what should I wrap it in? Browser router. Browser router. Is that it? Okay, that's fine, I guess. But where do we import it from? Browser router from React router DOM, right? And what's the usual way of doing this? Like, even in documentation, if I remember correctly, this is the way it is, right? So let's just go with that. All right. So it's done. Now, one more thing is that we have to create the navigation, right? So we'll have to create a nav bar. All right. So let's go and create a nav bar. Navbar dot basics, right? Const or just this export const navbar. हाँ अभी बताओ what do we need in navbar? I guess we need buttons, right? Button. All right. So let's have three buttons then. Let's have three buttons then. I think I copied space. My bad. Yes. Huh. And we'll have a form button, right? We'll have a books button and we'll have a wish list button. Wish list button. Okay. And yeah, how do I click on this button and visit those pages? Correct, Vikram? What about others? Let's say if I'm doing on click, use navigate, use navigator. Okay. Okay. So const navigate equals to use navigate. Now where do we import use navigate from? Import use navigate from React router DOM. एक ही तो चीज है React router DOM, right? And whenever I'm clicking on this, I want me to travel to navigate to slash, right? Exact same thing we are gonna do for this, right? But this time it will be I think it was books again, I don't remember. Books and wish list. All right. So we'll have books and we'll have a wish list. Text, this navbar is ready to go. Chili. So let's have this navbar over here. Navbar and form book wish list form. Right. Fix the CSS also a bit. थोड़ा सा. Okay. So let's have styles. And over here, let's have navbar dot css and I mean it's gonna be navbar, right? So dot navbar and display will be flex and justify content will be whatever, right? Space evenly and align items will be in center. We'll give it a padding of let's say 10 pixel, 10 pixel, ठीक है चलो. And we have to fix it in, right? So width देना पड़ेगा 100% and then position fixed. But again with position fixed comes top 0. Is it 0 pixel? या फिर direct चलेगा, right? Top and right 0 and we'll give it a background color also, right? And given that you guys don't have any colors from your end, so I'll put anything that वो बताता है मेरे को. ठीक. चलो. Now components में navbar will import the CSS. Import nav slash styles and this will be navbar dot css. All right. ठीक है. तो let's give this thing class name of nav. I think it was all small. All right. So yeah, we have a navbar in our hand and Yeah, we'll need to visit app.js6 again, and everything should be wrapped in this so that we can give it styling also. Right, so I guess this works. Take it. And we'll give this class name of container and app.css. And CSS here. We'll pick the dot container and we'll give it margin top of 100 pixels. Okay, so guys, routing is done. What do we need to do? Second thing, I mean, we'll create a form, we'll create show data and all, but while creating a form, should we send the data somewhere? Send the data somewhere. We'll need to create the Redux. We'll need to create the Redux setup. All right. So abhi, let's keep that thing in mind. Let's keep it in SRC only. Let's keep that thing in mind. What do we need in common and what do we need separately? So what do we need it in common? Without routes, use navigate render to other page. Then why we need routes? As in not getting it. Like that route tag. You will a tag. Yeah, it's just to contain it. Okay, just for the purpose कि these routes are contained over here. All right. ठीक है तो what do we need common? What's something that is common in Redux? Action common होने वाले action .j6 and we need the store to be common store.j6 reducer common होंगे. No, not exactly. No, right? But let's do one thing. अभी के लिए let's keep reducer separate. So we'll have a book reducer.js6. All right. So चलो action में चलते हैं. First, let's talk about book reducer. Let's have one more thing. Let's have a theme reducer also. Reducer.js6. All right. ठीक है. So yeah. Book reducer action पे आते हैं. So what action do we need over here? Add, create. ठीक है. I don't think you guys understand हम करने के वाले हैं. We are gonna have a form over here, right? तो वो फॉर्म से जब हम डेटा भरते हैं अपने रिडक्स में, right? What I wanna do is जैसे ही मैं वो करता हूँ, I wanna add it in Firebase also. Yes. So this is one thing that I need to do also. तो वो ध्यान में रखना. अभी के लिए क्या करते हैं? अभी के लिए let's go with the flow. Let's import Axios. All right. चलो अभी के लिए let's just create a global state and then we'll keep that global state updated and उसके बाद we'll figure out कि what we need to do with Axios. ठीक, तो अभी के लिए let's just go with normal, right? So let's have a const, right? We'll need to export this also like this. Export const, and what do we need to do? Add books, right? This is something that we need. So we'll have add books over here and we'll export const show books, right? So अभी के लिए ये तो रखते हैं, right? And what else do we need? What's the second like action file that we might have created? कितने reducers हैं हमारे पास? We need theme also, so export const theme. This will be theme update, right? Do we need anything else? Theme toggle, हाँ ठीक है, theme toggle better name actually. Theme toggle, let's copy this, let's give that name to variable also. ठीक है. If you want to toggle a theme, do you need to like have a get theme वाला feature also? No, because you can use selector and you can just directly get it. ठीक है. So now that this is done, shall we start with creating actions? Right? Sure. So what are going to be the actions? Let's have export const and books, right? This is going to be one of the actions, and books, right? And if you want to add some books, do you reckon a payload send karoge? If you are going to add some books, yes, you might want to need payload. You will actually send payload, and over here will return. What does this returns? An object with two properties. Type. What's going to be the type? And books. And books. Right? And payload. Whatever payload that we are sending. Similarly, we'll have export const show books. Show books. Book को show करने में do we need payload? Do we need payload? No. So we can just directly return type as show books, right? And payload will not be needed, right? So we can just directly go with this. And then finally, we have export const toggle, right? We have theme toggle, and will theme toggle need a payload? ये भी नहीं चाहिए, right? So over here we'll have theme. So this looks fine. The variables and the actions, right? Chalo, let's move towards reducers. Let's create separate reducers. So book reducer में just keep this thing in mind कि we are gonna do two actions, add and show book. Chalo, back to book reducers. First thing first, we'll start with init state, right? If you don't want to do like reassigning, so just name it with const ताकि reassign कर ही ना पाए. Spelling of toggle is wrong in action. Okay. Thanks. Tick. Chalo. And okay, too many tabs open. Let's close all and let's open book reducer. Okay. So what do we need in book reducers? Let's name it const rather, if in case we get an error while reassigning the copy. What do we need over here? Bus एक books. This should be an array or object. What do you think? Array होगा या object? अभी array से start करते हैं. जब हम Firebase incorporate करेंगे तब इसको अपडेट करते हैं. क्या बोलते हैं? What do you think? अच्छा, बाद में मुश्किल होगा. ठीक है. अच्छा चलो, बाद की बात बाद में देखते हैं. अभी के लिए ऐसे करते हैं. ठीक, अभी के लिए ऐसे करते हैं. So let's say over here we have by default let's keep some books so that we can have like access. So let's say book name, right? Book name, and we can have क्या है यहाँ पे? Sigma, and what do we need? Completed या read, क्या बेटर रहेगा? Completed. अच्छा चलो, let's have completed, right? And इसको false रखते हैं. And हाँ author, yeah, we can have a author also. राइट, ठीक है, तो एक ऑथर भी रखते हैं। अभी बुक नेम बताओ जल्दी, फटाफट फटाफट। बुक नेम एनसीईआरटी, भाई ये तो isn't it like a company or branch? Concept of physics, ऐसे चलो वो छोड़ो, बी फन कुछ और। ओके, प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस, ठीक है। ऑथर आई डोंट रिमेम्बर, जेन ऑस्टन क्या है, who's the author? ओके, हाँ, I guess I was correct. ठीक है, what else? Let's have 2 3 more books. Power of positive thinking, okay. Okay, let's stick to literature. चलो थोड़ा कल्चर करते हैं तुम लोगों को। Nothing lasts forever, okay. Nothing lasts forever. And who's the author? Sydney Sheldon. Sheldon. Wings of Fire, right? Have Wings of Fire and कलाम साहब ने लिखी है, so right. And one more, ऑथर का नाम साथ में, ऑथर का नाम साथ में, दा विंची कोड, एंड वो डा विंची ने लिखी है। आर यू श्योर? आर यू श्योर? चेक करो क्विकली। इफ नहीं तो इट्स गोना बी रिटन बाय जेन ऑस्टन, डैन ब्राउन, है ठीक है। एंड शेख काफी देर से डाल रहे हैं, तो विल हैव दैट आल्सो, द फर्स्ट चैप्टर, एंड दिस विल बी, ठीक है। ऑलराइट, दिस इज इनफ, चलिए। सो आई हैव अ स्मॉल क्वेश्चन फॉर यू गाइस। Let's say कि user is doing a update, right? And for now we haven't created update option, but let's say user is doing an update. Abhi, what's going to be the next step for them? For us at least, for as a developer, because we have to return a copy of it, a updated copy. And let's say they want to update this completed to true. So how will they do it? How will they do it? So जब तक you guys are thinking about that, I'll just create a reducer. So const, this will be book reducer, right? And we'll get the state as a net state, and we'll get the action. And okay, not an object. We'll have an object. It should have ID, or other we have to find with name. ठीक है, चलो, fair idea. Let's have an ID. So ID1, this will have an ID2, and this will have an ID3, and this will have an ID4, and this will have an ID5. It should have, I have given the ID. Yes, so I'll just write the switch case quickly. So switch, and this will have, sorry, action goal, let's destructure it. So let's destructure it over here. But then again, you might not find action somewhere else. So let's have action dot type over here. Take, and we'll have separate cases. But let's say, okay, let's have a hypothetical situation where the cases update book. How will you go about this? You get payload as an ID. So you'll get action dot payload as the ID. First thing first, we'll have to return an object, that's for sure. An object which holds the initial state, that's for sure. Either for sure. Right? What next? Now, out of this state, we'll have to pick books. Yes, we'll have to pick books. And then from this book, what do we have to do? Filter. Filter. So we'll do state dot books and uske baad we'll do a map or filter, let's say. We want to update the book, right? So let's go with map, right? And we'll get the element over here. Then what? Then what? Element is a specific object, right? Right. So over here, you will check if action dot payload dot id is equals to element dot id, right? In case this is true, then what? We'll again pick the object. You will destructure it with whatever it was, whatever was present in this object. Then you will visit completed, and over here you will fill action dot payload dot completed, whatever we have sent. Yes, yes, and nahi to we'll just send the entire element directly. Right? In case no ID matches, we'll say entire element is returned. Will this be the way of doing it? Is it complex? Do you think it's complex? Complexity high hai? I mean, you might have seen in last session also, if you want to do exactly the same copy you want to return, the complexity will get high. And with complexity getting high, the chance of error increases. Right? So basically, the segues towards a small it's package and a package which is called M, right? npm. If I remember correctly, it's just directly npm emr, right? So, we'll just go over here and we'll do a let's do here and we'll do a npm I. Wait a second, हम npm I कहाँ पे कर रहे हैं सारे? Did we oh, we have done it in your RCD 124 directly. Okay, let's do it over here again. So CD, this will be sprint, okay, and over CD is the right. Let's do a quick npmi. So we want to do Redux, we want to do React Redux, we want to do Axios, and और क्या चाहिए? React router DOM भी यहाँ पे install कर लेते हैं, and we want to do one npm IO, right? So once everything will get installed, I mean, it's basic thing, right? It doesn't do much. ठीक है, हाँ, हमारे पास आ गया book reducer back over here. So over here, if I go and if I comment this one out, if I uncomment this, or rather just uncomment this, let's say if I name it as net copy, equals to, I guess this is also fine, right? If I do console.log copy, I should get the copy. है But action and payload is not defined, so that will get an error. So let's do one thing. Let's have action, and this will have an ID of 2 and a payload of uh, एक second. We are doing action dot payload. So this action should have a payload जो कि खुद में एक object होगा, and this should have ID of 2 and it should have completed. Oh, take just trying to like reflect कि हाँ ऐसे action आ रहा है, we're gonna update it. Let's see if we can run this file. So let me clear this. How do we run a JS file? How do we run a JS file? Node run. Yes. So let's say if I want to run this, again, I'll have to visit that specific folder. Okay, let me do this. We have src cd src this cd, this will be redux, right? Abhi redux mein we can do it directly, so let's clear it, and I'm not sure if we do book producer dot, okay, it's jsx file. Let's name it as js for now. Just want to showcase कि ये immer करता है क्या. Right? So if I keep it in JS format, let me clear it again. The node, and this will be book reducer. So we are getting state is not defined. State init state. So let state equals to init state. I don't want to rewrite everything again. And check. Let's clear it. Node, and this will be book reducer.js. Okay, so we are getting a certain error. It says books undefined. Okay, it's because state. So state ko we have given the value of init state, right? Chalo, rename it to state. That's fine. That's fine. Let's remove this. Alright. So now if I do node book user.jsx, BB, we are getting an error. Okay. Any idea why we're getting error? Copy, we're printing it, and this is fine. We are doing books. Directly do it without destructure. Okay. But yeah, destructure should not get an error, no? ID match हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है? I'm not sure about that. Let's do a console.log of ELA overhead and let's see. So book user. We are getting the books. All right, that is fine. If I paste it over here, we are getting action. From there, we are getting dot payload, and ID we are checking it with element dot ID. So this ID we are checking it. Value ID, okay, that's correct. And if element dot ID मिलता है, so we are destructuring the element. We are picking the completed. We are updating with action dot payload dot completed. Yeah. Oh, of course. We are not returning anything, right? Yeah, of course. All right. So यहाँ पे what we can do is, this isn't just one statement, right? This is just one statement, so I guess I can just directly return it. Because this is one statement only. All right, let me clear it. Mode book user, and let's see if we have updated it. So, ID2 is updated, right? So that works, that's fine. But with the help of Immer, what we can do, we can like skip these many complex steps, right? Itna complex nahi karna padega. What we can simply do is, let's say we'll have a copy over here, right? And have we installed Immer? So yeah. So installation के लिए you can just do npm im, right? This will be, again, you can check it on npm also. ठीक है? So over here, it's simple. It basically has a method. I have to check which method it was. Produce method. Yeah, I was missing this one. All right. So that method is basically produce, right? So produce method, I'll have to import it. So let's quickly import it. We'll import it from produce from Immer chicken and not producer. And this is going to be a method, right? Or a method will take the original copy that you want to use, right? So the original copy is going to be the state, right? And uske baad it takes another parameter which is going to be a function, right? So that function basically refers ki what's the next copy that you want to create on, right? The usual convention क्या रहता है कि you name it as draft क्योंकि it's the update that you're doing, that's why you call it usually a draft, right? And in this draft, what I want to do, I want to basically but I'll have to define a variable over here. Again, it's been a quite a while, that's why I'm moving the question. One, right. Okay, so over here, let's say if I create a variable out of it, right? Const book equals to will have draft and this will be the original copy. This will be like this state only. So from there, if I want to access books, I'll have to do draft dot books. Guys, like what I'm doing, it is clear, right? You have to create a produce method, and that method is going to take two things. First, original state, and second, वो लेगा this draft thing. Again, it can be named anything. It can be named ELE, it can be named draft anything. Convention ये रहता है कि draft लिखते हैं, and this draft is going to be the exact copy of this state. Right now, once I get this draft.books from here, how can I find it? Will it be fine if I write find? Do you guys remember what find used to do? Find क्या करता था याद है? No. Okay. So if I write element, right? And उस element में if I do element dot id is equals to action dot payload dot id, right? Again, this will return me either true or false key. Is that element present or not? Right? And over here, based on that, I can check कि if the book is present, right? अगर एक book present है, तो what I can do, I can pick the book and I can say कि उसमें I have completed, right? The book dot action, right? Pick the completed first, and then I'll turn it to true, right? So I'll pick the book that I've completed and I'll turn it to true. Right? So basically I've used books.find. It will return me whatever ID that was triggered. If something was present, then this thing will be true. Agar nothing was present, so this thing will be false. In case that is true, this book will store that specific book. एक book store करके रखेगा, and in that specific book, I'm updating the completed. Right? Now let's go and print copy. So if I do node and book reducer, right? it was second again. So you'll see that this is true again, right? If I update, let's say ID with 4, so I can do a clear over here, and I can do again node bookstore. So again, fourth will be true in this case, right? So immer basically क्या करता है? It creates a copy of it, and from there you can just directly update that copy. अगर ये नहीं समझ आया तो you can also use filter, right? You can use filter. If the ID gets triggered, then filter is gonna return something, or else it will be an empty array, right? So over here, what you can do, if book dot length is greater than 0, so in that case, you're gonna do this, right? Or other, if the length is equals to 0, you know what's gonna happen, right? Right. So this is one way of doing it. It basically reduces this level of complexity with a lot. You can just directly like directly access करके you can update it. Right. तो वो direct access और update हो जाती है. You don't even have to return anything. वो by default सब कुछ अपने आप से कर देगा. Right. So this is nothing complex. आगे चल के if you go and create bigger applications, they have dependency and they get a lot more complex. Right. If more nests, then again you can just go on keep on accessing it in this fashion only. Let's say कि books के अंदर there was an object which had like literature. तो उसके अंदर you had to do that, so you could have done literature, right? And that would have worked. तो बस वही चीज ये बहुत आसान कर देती है. नहीं तो यहाँ पे क्या करना पड़ता, फर्स्ट ये करने के बाद आपको फिर अगेन एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाना पड़ता, और इन दैट यू विल हैव टू फर्स्ट लाइक destructure literature and then you'll have to fill it. पर यहाँ पे you can just directly access it. Clear? Clear? तो एक काम करते हैं, given that we have used it, so I would rather not इसको मतलब ऐसे let's leave it, let's name it as email email.js, right? And let's create another book reducer. So we'll have a book reducer.js. Was that not present in notes? Because I thought you guys might be aware about it. Export const and book. Okay, and this will be state. Let's name it as init state. Init state. So state is equals to your init state, and we'll have action over here. This will have switch, and chalo, let's destructure it. So type and payload. We get the type, and we'll have the case. Again, in case you forgot about it, we have these two actions. I mean, I actually forgot the names. So you have add book and show book, right? The first have add book, right? Add books actually. And what do we want to do over here? Add books में. I mean, this is small, so here I won't be using image. It's just एक बस मुझे नया payload add करना है. Right, so I'll pick it, I'll destructure the original state, and then I'll pick books over it. I'll pick an array, I'll destructure state dot books, and I'll put my payload. Will this do? Add the new book, right? Similarly, I'll have one more case, which is show books. अरे यार पर show books के लिए why did we create it? I mean, book showing doesn't need anything, right? You won't need anything. ठीक है, let's have delete books, right? Show books. Let's have delete, right? And it's copy. Let's have delete books. Take and book reducer will have case. This will be delete books. How will we delete books, people? Delete books may will have to change like for this we'll get payload, right? we will get payload. And over here, we can name it as payload, and that's going to be an ID, right? From directly ID build. So again, filter method. So return and again state. How do we filter it? We first pick books. We'll pick an array, right? So state dot books dot filter, right? We'll get the element and we'll say element dot id is not equals to the payload that we're getting over. Make sense? Make sense? And then finally we have to return the default feature also, right? So default may we want to return the state. Clear? All right. Similarly, we'll have our theme reducer also, right? Return statement. Did I missed it? Oh yeah. Return. Similarly, theme reducer maybe will have const let rather init state, right? This will have the theme and it's going to be false by default. Let's create export const theme reducer, and this will have state equals to init state and it will get an action, right? Although I'm not sure इसको payload देना चाहिए हमें कि नहीं, ठीक है. We'll have switch, although it just has one case anyways, type and case will be into. So theme toggle, and we have to return the original object state with the theme, right? Updated of state dot theme. This will work, right? So we don't exactly need the payload, right? इसको wrap कर देते हैं, right? So that we don't get an error. All right, and over here again, let's have a default value. It's good to have a default feature, and this will be return the state. Okay, now back to story. With store, what do we have to do? Combine them. Combine them. Right? So let's go and create a root reducer for them. Root reducer for them. .js6. ठीक है, अभी बताइए root reducer, how do we do that? Import what? I'll give you a break. पहले Redux setup कर लेते हैं. Just Redux setup and then I'll give you a break. Import. What do we have to import? Combine reducers from Redux, which was already कर दी. Right? And over here, let's say I'm calling it root reducer. What's it gonna be? Combine reducer. क्या लेगा ये? It takes an object. It's gonna have some names, right? So books reduce equals to ये क्या होगा? Books reducer, book reducer. Similarly, we'll have theme, right? So if I write it like let's say books and score, let's say as theme, right? So we'll have theme reducer book. Clear? Clear? And finally, store में जाके we'll import it. I think we have it exported. So let's import it. Export const. ठीक है, तो हम store में जाके import करेंगे. First thing first, what do we need to import? Because let's say if I go and create store, right? Export const store. So this store is gonna take what? Create store, but वो deprecated the last time. Remember I told you, right? So now there are a few more things like you have a legacy create store, so you can use that, right? So we'll use legacy create store, and over here, what do we have to enter? Root reduce, right? This basically completes the full circle of Redux. Redux complete हो गया. Now what? We have to attach it to our application. So main.jsx कैसे attach करेंगे? Wrap it. Wrap it in provider. Where do we get this provider from? Redux. Okay. Import provider from React Redux. Do we need to pass something? Store. All right. Store. Works. Right. Shall we check? Check once. A small check. Let's say display में we go and we write let state equals to. How do we get data from Redux? Use selector या combinator. Why do I say combinator? Once there was this guy and he was writing use combinator. ठीक तो it makes sense, no? क्योंकि selector we have learned in CSS बाद में combinators पढ़ते तो might get confused. Makes sense, makes sense. All right, and this is gonna give you the state with everything. But if I just want, we are in display page, we just want theme. So how can I do that? I'll have to write the name. Theme. What was the name? Whatever name you gave here, right? The theme, and from there, what I want, theme reducer में से, I want theme, right? So I'll go in display back, and I'll write theme reducer में से, right? So again, दो चीजें एक साथ हो गई. Let's name it something better than theme R, and इसको books R रखते हैं. Take display from theme R. I'm importing theme. And what I want to do over here is console.log state. Right? So let's visit display books, and we're getting false. That means our setup is working. Clear? Clear. So again, Redux में any problem? We talked about immer in between also, so I hope there's no issue with that also. Take now we'll have some discussion around few things over here. So let's do that after break only. Take the break करके आओ, and then we'll discuss about it. Right? Open root. Open it. Just give me a second. So I'll split the screen, and let's have store over here. Right? And you need root reducer, right? Yeah, there you go. So I'll just copy this. I'll just paste it. So यहाँ पे you can get root reducer. I'll open other reducers over it. The theme ये रहा, and let's split it once. Book reducer. Right, in case you guys might wanna check this out. All right, take it. So break for 5 minutes. Right, so by 56, everyone be back. All right. Right, run back. आ गए क्या guys? Back. Okay, ठीक है. अच्छा. So हाँ, store में I wanted to discuss few things with you guys. Right. So once we trigger, like, be it say use selector or be it dispatch, basically something like this happens wherein action we are gonna import in our app, right? And uske baad we are gonna trigger it based on dispatch, right? Trigger kiya, then that dispatch is gonna visit reducer, right? Nahin, reducer won't be the first point of contact, my bad. It will first contact store, right? और वो store बताएगा कि आपको इस direction वाले में जाना है कि इस direction वाले में जाना है, right? Let's say कि it visits here and this is the reducer that we want to update and it does the job over here, right? But what if you might want to do something before it enters the reducer, right? You have action over here, आपके पास store में action आया. Let's say you want to apply some validation over here, right? So basically this step, जो store और reducer के बीच का step होता है, this is gonna happen in this file only because this file is the connection between store and reducer, which is doing that over here, right? Now I want you guys to think कि what might be the possible reason कि action and reducer के बीच में क्या हो रहा है? Why would we wanna test कि what's happening in between? What might be the features that we might want, or what might be the validation I named it? क्या करना होगा? Let's say a action is coming in, right? You might wanna maybe check what that action type is. You might wanna check if it's the correct type that a reducer is expecting or not. It can be one of that. Can it be you wanna check how many times user is doing that? Maybe collecting the data, right? How many times a user is clicking on a specific genre so that you can recommend them later on, right? So you might wanna check counts also, or you might wanna debug, right? यहाँ पे you wanna check कि what's the error? Is it action? Is it reducer? Is it application? Right? Or mainly why this setup is done? It's for doing like what do you call it? Side effect, right? For doing side effects, right? Because I'm not sure if you guys tried it, but can you directly in reducer use Axios and all? Can you do fetch directly in reducer? Has anyone tried it? You won't be able to do it, right? Because reducer, once it gets attached to this, na, once it gets attached to store, तो reducers are supposed to be pure, right? तो जब pure functions होते हैं ना, तो you're not supposed to do side effects on those functions, right? So it will throw a certain error. It will maybe say कि it won't be supported or anything, right? ठीक है, तो then we'll try to do workaround. We'll do it in action file. For action be at the end, it's gonna be connected with Redux only, right? So ये जो workaround है, that will have to figure out, right? And why do we want to figure out in Redux? Why do we want to do Axios calls in Redux? Because normally क्या होगा? Let's say कि normally your data is loading at this page, but loading page was form page, right? So if user is visiting form page and they never clicked on books, right? So they are not using the books ka use effect, right? Which basically dispatch the fetch data, right? So having dependency on another thing is gonna be again a similar thing जो भी हम state management जिसके लिए define किया था वो नहीं हो पा रहा है. So that's why there's a something that is called middlewares, right? One of these middlewares help with this. कैसे help करेगा? We'll see about that. But again, let's quickly discuss what these middlewares are, right? So these middlewares are gonna be the middleman between your action, whatever action you have done, and then whatever reducer that you're gonna visit. Uske beech mein these guys intervene and they test them, they validate them, they can do side effects, right? So there's a thing that is called middleware and it happens between action and reducer. So just theory of it, is that clear कि what middlewares are gonna be? Syntax कैसे होगा, that we'll discuss later on. Right? But what middlewares are theoretically, is that clear? I mean it's in the name also, middlewares, right? You have software and then you have middleware, जो कि middleman, right? Brokers between action and reducer. ठीक, तो now how are these middlewares defined, उस पे आते हैं थोड़ी देर बाद. Before that, again let's visit emma.js because it's a JS file. I want to ask you a small thing. Let's say I have a function, right? It's called parent. Let's call it A. And in this function, I have another function B. So it basically returns this function, right? And then I have another function and it's called right. So if I write console.log hello, how will I print hello? How will I print hello? A अच्छा के अंदर फिर you're calling B inside it again and then C, ठीक है, makes sense, makes sense. So if I go into console.log A and then you're telling me कि inside this I call B, is this viable? ऐसा होता है? This is callback function. You're calling a callback function. It's not a callback function. If I write this means कि मुझे return में क्या मिलने वाला है, output क्या आने वाला है? I'll get function B in return, right? Which basically returns another function C. Yes or no? Is there something that I'm gonna get? Right? Again, if you have confusion, let me just console it real quick. So I'll clear it. Node hook reduction. If I print it, right? So uh, ठीक है, that error is rightfully so. I mean, it's not inspect, तो यहाँ पे dev tools नहीं होंगे, so it's not very intuitive, but ठीक है. I hope कि by the fundamentals of JS we can define it for ourselves कि what the output is going to be, right? And how many of us think it's going to be the function, this function, right? तो अगर ये b function है, this entire thing is representing that function. If I call that function once again, will this be the way of doing it? Right? And फिर वो क्या return करेगा? It will return this function C. So if I want to call it, will I be calling it once again? Right? So what did we name this thing? Function करिंग करके याद है? We learned about it when we were learning about closures and all. Right? So can this be written in E6 format? I think I showed you, but maybe I might have asked you as homework also. But anyways, let's say we have I mean, I'm thinking of a function name, but चलो कोई नहीं. I mean, I can't exactly think. ABC नहीं. चलो anyways, let's say I have a function, right? And once this is done, this calls another function, and once this is done, this calls another function, and here it has something in here. So let's say let's do two nesting only. Let's not make it much complex. Let's say if I do console dot log over here, right? And over here, let's write B, let's write C. Take, I mean, if you want, yeah, sure, why not? थोड़ा सा बड़ा होगा, but that's fine. We write T. A, B, C. Let's name it as operation or something, right? Operator, right? And let's console. Let's fix the serial number A, B, and C. ठीक. So A पे एक काम करते हैं, let's print A and console.log for B. let's print B and console.log. For C, let's print C. Yeah, but the node is not working properly. Let's get a JS compiler. Okay, over here. All right. So, if I do, let's say operator one, what will be the output? Guesses quickly. What will be the output? Operator one. Where is you there? Operator has a function inside which you have another function, inside which you have another function. This is just the representation format, nothing else. Right? मैंने operator function पकड़ा, I just picked this and I called one. So what should I be getting if I run it? Let's say if I console it, console.log this, parent. I'm getting a function. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Let's go. Operator one, then two, then three. What should I be getting? So finally, once I passed from this function, then I entered this function, then I entered this function. उसके बाद I printed the output. Yes. Yes. So basically, what I could have done is I could have stored them in a separate format also, right? So let's say fn1 equals to operator 1. उसके बाद let fn2 equals to operator नहीं fn1 2. Then let fn3 equals to fn2 3. Will this be exact same to what I did in line number 12? Yes. Yes. So if I run them, I'll get exact similar output. Don't you think if something like that happens, we can validate these parameters, whatever we are getting on each step, हर एक variable we can have access to them separately, right? This is what middleware actually do, right? Right. So basically, again, चलो यहाँ पे ये explain कर देते हैं. Let's just define it in basic format. What happens in Redux, you will do middlewares a lot, and then उसके बाद middleware सीधा आपके node में आता है, right? So let's say कि यहाँ पे we define like by default a normal middleware, right? And first middleware is attached to your store, right? You're sending something in store. Then again, there's this standardization format where you have like store next action का format. So you'll have next, and then you have action. So this basically represents कि पहले your stuff will visit store, then they will visit next middleware, and then they will let the store handle it, right? So वहीं if I do the exact same thing over here, right? You get the idea कि I can store different values, right? So let's say कि मैं यहाँ पे I can call it fn1 again, and I can do middleware like पहला store value भेजूंगा, right? So I can store something over here, 1 or 2 or something like that. So I can do it something like this again and again, right? So बस यही concept, just keep it in mind somewhere while we discuss about middlewares, right? So over here, let me remove all this. Okay. Store.js. Yeah. So over here, in case, let's say you have a middleware function over here, right? What do we want to define this function for? I mean, chalo, let's have a function, right? Let's call it middleware only. ये वाला function ले लेते हैं. Right. Or we can use the inbuilt functions anyways. Chalo, like middleware, let's just define a dummy function. Right? Let's say कि this is the middleware function that I want to run. So यहाँ पे how will I attach it? In like store, first parameter your legacy store will take is your like normal thing, right? Normal whatever reducer you want to send, and uske baad it will take the middleware, right? So over here you can write comma, and यहाँ पे it will take the middleware, whatever middleware you want to send. But you can't just directly like call this middleware over here. You can't just directly write it. You have to write a small keyword which is called apply middleware, right? And this will be apply middleware will be imported from Redux only. This will be a function, and in this we'll send this middleware, right? So this will be that structure wherein there is a apply middleware function, right? First it calls that middleware function, right? ये middleware function call करेगा. उसके बाद there will be some other dependent function जिसमें कुछ कोड लिखे होंगे वो कॉल होंगे, and then finally your reducer will be called, right? So this is how it works. So basically let's go with directly कुछ inbuilt middlewares. So if I open the terminal, select, right? So there is this middleware logger npm, right? So this middleware basically like logs everything that you do with respect to Redux. तो मतलब if you're fetching some data, if you're dispatching some data, तो वो console करता रहेगा कि what's happening, right? So node logger, not this. We need React logger, Redux logger. Yeah, Redux logger. So installation पे I just want to check कि हाँ npm install, this will be Redux logger. So you can do npm I Redux logger. We don't need to currently write the version or save types or anything. It will directly do itself, and it's present, right? So अभी क्या हुआ? अभी it has like installed the logger. I'll get that logger. This will be from your Redux logger, and the middleware I'll send it over here. So let's remove it. This will be the middleware. Right now, if I like, let's say if I go back to form, right, and if I click on books again, right, here I don't think it applied correctly. We installed logger and in the middleware applied logger. Okay, let me check. इसने टीएस में देखा. There's one small thing that I'm not sure कि logger directly import होता है या फिर it's like named import. See if I click on books, in books, logger. Uh, are we we might not be dispatching anything. So selector पे it might not work. Let's get in form, and form में काम करते हैं. Let's do a use evict, and over here whenever the application runs we are gonna dispatch something, right? तो जब भी application run कर रहा है we are gonna dispatch const dispatch equals to use dispatch, and yeah, and what I want to dispatch is action on a dispatch theme toggle, right? Just one. So and over here I want to get the, we can directly do it. So I'm dispatch theme toggle, right? Do I need to call it over here? Call करना है, or you can directly send it. Call. Okay. Okay, so let's refresh it now. Let's see. So if I visit form, Acha, though I think it exactly works for dispatch only. It doesn't work for a selector. Makes sense. Makes sense. So whenever you dispatch something, right? Whenever you dispatch something to your Redux, it will basically update you in console ki what was dispatched, how was the state changed based on that, right? So the previous state, once the first dispatch happened, it was false, and जब next dispatch हुआ, so that theme was toggled into true, right? We are printing it twice because of the strict mode. I hope you understand. Let's say कि we have a state over here, right? चलो, like you get the idea कि whenever we dispatch, it does this, right? So we'll like create something and हम dispatch करना start करते हैं, right? I hope you get the idea कि logger क्या क्या है. Whenever you dispatch ना, it will print कि whatever the original state was, how did it change? So it basically helps in debugging. That's all, right? Mostly it's just used for debugging only, right? But that's not the important uh, like middleware that we want to learn today. The most important thing that we want to learn today is this thing. There's a middleware which is called Redux, right? And ये क्या करता है? It lets you write like side effects in actions as well, right? So now what we can do, rather than writing use effect and उसके बाद making a call, right? Let's say कि form.jsx में we wrote use effect and then उसके बाद maybe we did a fetch call or something, right? पहले हमने data fetch किया, right? अच्छा चलो, let's say कि we have data over here, no? I mean, we actually planned something bigger than we could have actually created. इस वजह से we got the error, but anyways चलो. Let's see what we can do. So Redux में let's have uh, db.json file. Right, let's export it in Firebase. So this will be there, and this has to be wrapped in an object, right? What else is there in JSON file? Stringed. Everything will be stringed, right? So let's quickly string them. Oh no, no, not in this fashion. Sure, let's quickly string them. Uh, yeah. Okay. So double quotes here. Let's get that into Firebase. Right, completed को भी रखते हैं. So let's get that also. And all right. So now this can be imported into Firebase, right? तो चलो कर लेते हैं जल्दी से import. And that's all. Think for us is correct. This is what we were using, you know. It's funny, we were using different. Hmm. Okay. And over here we want to import it. So import and let's browse. So let's print 3D3. So see, I think we created it in Redux, right? Okay. So this will be there and we'll import it. All right. So it's imported. Over here, you have the books, right, with the IDs in them. So let's get this URL. Let's get this URL and we'll have to do a slash books over there. So we'll do that. All right. So display, right? No, form. चलो. So over here, if we had to do like if we usually जो हम usual तरीके से जाते हैं, if we had to do that with respect to data, what we could have done is we could have had this books.json, right? And first we would have made the fetch request and all, right? So again, issues we can use issues. I will have to import it. So import issues from issues, and we'll have to do get, right, with the URL. Yes, and उसके बाद we could have written dot then we could have received this element. Why in form? uh अच्छा, we should have done this in display. चलो कोई नहीं, अभी form में कर लेते हैं. Actually the thing is that I'm not sure कि we can create this entire application in that time, right? तो अभी at least thunk कर लेते हैं and then form thing you can already do. ठीक, अभी के लिए बस डेटा दिखा देते हैं. We can do this thing in your books also, so let's do it in books. Display over here. Over here, let's do this. So yeah, and we'll have to import issues from issues. Anything else? Dispatch is there, so we'll have to import use dispatch also. Okay, and we'll have to change the routes now. So for J6, this will be form, and this will be the home page going forward. Okay, let's get back to display. All right. So now, यहाँ पे once we get the element, how do we get the specific data? एक specific data कैसे मिलता है? Import use effect, yeah. Yeah. Use effect. But ठीक है, how do we get a specific data from here? Object dot entries. Okay. ठीक है, तो can I do dispatch and then I'll have to do action. I'll have to do add books, right? So this will. So we'll have to do add books, and what do we want to send over here? Element dot data, right? We'll send element dot data, right? And then उसके बाद फिर in reducer will receive this data in form of payload, and we'll do that. But again, if we do something like this, are we not depending on a specific like component? State is not defined. So anyways, I'll just erase this code, that's fine. We are like depending upon a specific component, right? But what if we just had to write dispatch and uske baad everything was taken care by this thing, your like action only? Wouldn't that be great? Right? मतलब all you had to do was यहाँ पे आके आपको बस dispatch लिखना, right? Dispatch, and that will be add data, add books, and rest everything is taken care by Redux only. So that will be better, no? Right? So उसके लिए let's get this, and let's remove this state. Okay. So now we'll have to do everything in action, right? Side effects now can be done in action. So over here, let's define the URL. Let's define the URL. So URL is done, right? And yeah. And in here, in your ad books only, I want to do all the fetching, right? So how do we do that? How will I do fetch over here? First thing first, Axios चाहिए. We need Axios over here, right? So let's import that. Let's import that. Let's import Axios from Axios, right? And over here we want to do it. So अभी return पे आते हैं. Let's just write it outside. Let's just write it outside. Check it. And over here, what we want to do, first thing first, we want to fetch, right? So abhi usually usually क्या every time what Redux is gonna do, it always expects object directly an object from action, right? But if you do like a method in it, so you'll have to basically send a, like if you want to do fetch over here, I'll have to use async method, no? Right? So with the use of a middleware that is called Redux thunk, action can directly send a function, right? So this is the only thing जो कि Redux thunk enable करता है, and that basically makes this a lot better, right? So you can just directly return async function from over here, right? So let's say async function में पर we need dispatch over here also. ठीक है चलो, we can just send dispatch as this only. We'll say we'll just call this parameter that we are sending as dispatch, right? And over here what we want to do is we want to fetch, right? So let's say const and we'll say response, right? And we want to await from fetch with the URL that we have done over here, right? And उसके बाद const data equals to, पर हम excuse use कर रहे हैं, right? So we don't have to do all that, right? So let's do it directly. Excuse. I mean, we don't even need async, right? For this, we just directly do excuse dot get URL, right? अभी उसके बाद we got the data. Got the data. Now what? We'll have to like payload, right? We'll have to send the payload and all. Yes, so we'll have a dot then over here. We'll have element and yeah. So abhi bhi, even though your Redux now understands that your actions will return a function, your reducer still needs an object, right? So यहाँ पे when we return it, right? Over here when we return it, this return is still gonna be an object, right? And that object is gonna hold the type as add books and payload as, what will be the payload now? Element dot, what does excuse returns? Data, right? So this will be the payload now basically. Clear? Clear? But of course we are getting errors, and that error is because of this only. Okay, we are not will not be able to do this and all. So anyways, let's go in store, right? Let's go in store, and store में जाके let's enable that middleware, right? So we'll have to install that. So again, I think npm I most like the middlewares follow the convention of Redux and then the name, right? So let's see. I do Redux thunk. Get it installed. Yeah, it installed. It did. It did. All right. So book store, right? And over here we'll have to apply the middleware. So already एक logger middleware implemented है, right? If you want to apply more middleware, you can just write it in this format. That works, right? So you'll have to write thunk over here, but we'll have to import it. So let's import thunk from Redux, right? So it is Redux thunk does not. Okay, let's see. Let's support this. I guess it does. All right. So yeah, we have the middleware enabled also. Now we're not sure कि the data are we getting it or not. So यहाँ पे आते हैं. Let's get back to display, right? अच्छा एक second. Action पे we are sending element dot data. Okay, you have to remember कि Firebase sends data in a bit different format, no? right? तो book reducer में अभी although we have all the data, so let's do one thing, let's keep this as empty object, right? अच्छा, अभी now payload is gonna be an object, right? Payload is gonna be an object. Yes. So this payload is gonna be an object, and books is gonna be an object itself. So let's have an object, and object के अंदर object, if you want to send, how do we do that? Just do this, and उसके बाद just send the payload. Yeah, but payload को भी will have to destructure because there might be multiple things over there. This makes sense, guys? Everyone, this destructure part, right? Again, if you're getting data in this format, right, and if you have another object इसके अंदर ये डालना है, तो we can just directly do destructure in this fashion, right? So now this should give us the data. Okay, that's fine, but there's a small issue. Now we'll visit display. And we'll do the let state and all, right? Let's get data also. So let, is there an error? Display, this could be due to non, oh. So we'll get the data, we'll do use selector, and over here we'll get the state, and we'll do state dot book r producer books are. All right, so we'll do books are, and इसमें से we'll get the books, right? So again, we'll get the books. All right, so display. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's first at least console.log this data. Right. So let's see what we're getting in data. Let's refresh. All right. So we're getting an empty object. All right. Let's do one thing then. We are dispatching it in use effect. उसके बाद बाकी चीजें हो रही है ना. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's do this use effect initial. Right. चलो अभी refresh करते हैं. So books are, and books is still empty. State, next state, books is still empty. Okay, we might be missing something, of course. Let's see. So in our store, Ank is implemented, and in our action, URL is there, and we are doing much. Oh yeah. We missed one small thing. We can't just directly return it in this format. We'll have to actually dispatch it. My bad. Right? इसको क्या करना पड़ेगा? हमें dispatch करना पड़ेगा. That's why I just remembered कि हमने ये keyword define किया, but we never used it. Right? तो वो XUOC देख लेगा. You don't have to think about that. You just have to kind of send the type and payload over here. Right? And this dispatch is accepted over here. Right? Let's see. So if I go now, you'll see that we have all the books. Right? Chalo. So we have done a lot of things. In the meantime, I also forgot some syntax. So let me just place it everything together. Take or bar. So in store, we learned something that was called middleware. Middleware का concept clear है कि it happens between action and like reducer. Was that particular part clear? What middlewares are? Right? In that we discussed two middleware. One was called logger. What does logger middleware does? You install it by writing Redux logger. It basically logs every time you dispatch, right? So selector page it's not working whenever you are dispatching it. Quick snapshot on Redux logger. Uh, yeah, if you're telling it like gives the snapshot of state, so yeah, it does that. Right, so whatever the state is doing, पहले previous state क्या था, what the action, like what's the action that happened and what's the payload there was, right? So you can see कि over here, whenever the use state was use effect was called first time, books was empty, then action happened wherein the type was add books and the payload was an array of 5, and then in next time this was updated, right? So basically this is how you can write middlewares. You first attach reducer in your create store, you write a comma, you write apply middleware, and over here you can apply as many middlewares as you want, right? And uske baad this thunk thing basically by default Redux only lets action return objects, right? But if you start using thunk, you can also return function, right? Now what we did with that function, हम action पे गए, and over here in this add books function, now we don't need payload anymore. We return a function, हमने एक function return किया, and that function, I mean this is provided by thunk only. Thunk by default it provides it. In here you can write dispatch as a parameter, right? This dispatch is your use dispatch only, but it is provided by thunk. And now over here we did our usual stuff, and finally we just dispatched however we want to do it, right? Because reducer still acts same, right? Reducer में अभी भी your book reducer expects a action and a payload. So that happened. Your action went to be add books, and the payload was an object of object. So that payload was destructured and sent over here, and हमारे display में we used the use effect and we got the updated data. Clear? Clear how this was all working? Anyone, any doubt with respect to how you can use thunk or logger or middleware in general? Okay. So a small question with you guys. If I ask you to apply middleware, can you do that? Right? ठीक है. So shall we try it with form? Shall we try it with form? Like books में तो we'll get the data. How will we do it with form? Books में if you wanna show, yeah, we can show. We have like 15 minutes. Yeah, we can show. Let's visit display. Uh, Dispatch add books. Let's have a state, or this data has the data, right? So that data is in this format. It's in object of object format. So how do we iterate over it? I'll have to convert it in array. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do that. Let's have a div over here, right? And here we'll do data dot or let's do object dot entries, and over here we'll get the data, right? So now इसमें will apply map and element. Now what will this element be? Right, first property is going to be id and second will be the object. So इसको हम लोग destructure कर सकते हैं in your array format. Element नहीं, id comma element, right? So now element will be each separate object. Now we'll create a div, or will rather return a div, right? And over here let's say next statement we are getting the book, and we have book name and author, right? So we can have that. So we'll have p b book, and this will be element dot book basically. So element dot book name, right? We'll have all the books over here. right? Similarly, we can have a B, and author, and this will be element of, right? So we'll have all that stuff. Now I think we have an empty object. That's where we are getting the final. That's fine. Yes, let's refresh it. Okay. Are we getting this in book R? It's still 4 only. Hmm, reading book and author. फिर ये क्यों आ रहा है? Next date, book still है only. Hmm, okay, let me check the console.log, object.entries, and this is for data. Yeah, not sure, not sure. I mean, ठीक है, but can we do a workaround over here? Can we fix this? Book for data and all. Yeah, we can do that, right? We can have element, or we can say if element dot book name and element dot author the true, right? Then only we're gonna show all this, right? Okay, I think Nicola ji will there. We'll have to do it inside. So let's go over here. Over here, we'll test it, and we'll basically return it. Right? So this will be in brackets. Right. If I want to do this, right, I'll take it and I'll return. Yeah, take it. We are skipping all that. Whatever empty was there for some reason. Chalo. So this is where we are showing the data. Let's say if we are in form, right? Forms में दिखा रहे क्या? Did we do that all in form? Oops. Okay, I think हमने नाम नहीं change किया. So navbar it's going to change the name. So this will be form and books. Okay. All right. So books में we are getting the book. Form में let's do it quickly. Again, let's go in form. Right. यहाँ पे let's say let's quickly get to inputs. Right. So form, and this will be on submit, and this will be handle submit. We have function handle submit, and we'll do something with that. But अभी के लिए यहाँ पे let's have an input. Let's have an input. And कितने inputs चाहिए थे? We needed a completed also, right? So चलो अभी के लिए let's give it a select tag, right? And this will be option completed, and we'll have option true, or you like normal people true false नहीं बोलते. Is it done? What can or reading, right? Check it. So anything else? We had author, book name, and completed. Take it. So we can give it a placeholder of book name. You can say here placeholder of author name. All right, and finally we'll have an input, and this will have a type of right. Take it. And over here we are getting the element. We are getting e dot prevent default, right? Check. So forms में books forms. एक second. First thing, first let's fix these. So route में slash form is taking us to form, right? And it's taking us to form. So this is the form. This is what it should return. So okay. I've got J6. So slash form, and this is gonna be display and wish list. So display nav bar में भी change करना पड़ेगा. Where's nav bar? Right. So if you wanna show form, this will be form. This will be books. All right. So form. Now we're in the form, and when I want to submit it, right? Again, will submit be a dispatch? Submit be a dispatch, right? यहाँ से कुछ payload देना पड़ेगा, right? So let's go in action. Let's go in action, right? And add books तो already कर दिया हमने. Let's have const. Let's have add more books करके, right? Because यहाँ पे तो show books था, तो anyway चलो थोड़ा सा mismatch हो रहा है, ठीक है. We'll have payload, and what it will return, we'll discuss about it. Let's have things defined just for now. Sport const add more books. Let's copy this and this, right? And this is exported, so we'll just get this, and in our form we'll have let dispatch equals to use dispatch, and will dispatch add more books with a payload. Right now we have to define that payload. So let payload be an object, and that object is gonna have it's gonna have a author. So that author is gonna be e dot target, and this will be one dot value, and we'll have completed. So e dot target 2 dot value. Similarly, we'll have book name e dot target 0 dot value. Okay, and this will send the payload, and we can have a alert over here also. Okay, data, right? Okay, so this is fine. This payload will be this book data, right? Back in action, action में this payload is gonna be the book data that we are gonna send, right? Now over here again we'll have to do that Axios thing. So we'll write a return. We have the dispatch over here, right? We'll use Axios dot post in the URL, and the payload that we have over here. The payload that we have over here, right? And यहाँ पे तो post हो गया, right? What should I write in dot then? यहाँ पे आ जाता है कि what do you think about it? We have posted the data, right? So what dispatch should say over it? Do we have to update? Do we have to update the books? Right? So if I do this exact dispatch, Does it make sense कि yeah, that would work? Yes, because if you're adding more data, you have posted it, that's fine, but उसके बाद you have to update the new data, right? So yeah, let's visit books. By default, this is the data. If we come over here, let's add something else. ABC, XYZ, completed, done. Okay, wait. This might throw an error. This might throw an error. Form में आना पड़ेगा because completed is gonna be a boolean value, right? This is supposed to be boolean, but anyways, we are not showing it, so that you guys can do, right? यहाँ पे you can do, you can say it like this कि if it's equals to, we haven't given it any value anyways. यहाँ पे let's have the value as true, and यहाँ पे let's have the value as false, right? So we can say कि if it equals to true, then we can set it as true, else we can set it as false. Easy, works. All right, so done, and let's refresh it again. Books को and form पे आएंगे. Let's add XYZ by ABC and let it be completed, submitted, data added, and once data is added, it says ELE is not defined and action.jsx. ELE is not defined. Oh, yeah, of course. So, यहाँ पे payload type will be add books, but your payload will have to send. Yes. अच्छा, if I do axios dot get over here, dot then element. हाँ, yeah, exactly. But again, I don't exactly remember what do we get in element. Post करने के बाद does axios return anything? I'll have to check. चलो यहीं पे चेक कर लेते हैं. बस submitted, data added, element is not defined. Okay, now we have defined that. But yeah, you can see that data is being added, right? उसके बाद वाले यहाँ वाला, this is being done. Payload में element नहीं होगा. Yeah, that's why I'm worried कि फिर यहाँ पे क्या है ना कि first we had to do this axios dot get. चलो कोई नहीं, let's nest it, nest कर देते हैं. So यहाँ पे क्या करते हैं, dot then में एक और बात करते हैं. ठीक, चलो, so if I submit it, that's being done, and if I go in books, the new books will be updated. Clear? 3 बार क्यों आया? Because पहले भी that was working, the data addition was working, but we had some error. Let's say कि now we add something new, right? Forms में जाके let's say we add something new, right? Something no, and let's say if I submit it, data added, and now if I go in books, that will be added. Right? By get we have data directly. नहीं, देखो, we have oh yeah, you're correct. We have data, and we can just destructure it, right? Very good.
हेलो सर.
Yeah,
हेलो.
correct.
पहले वाला कोड सही था सर. ये पेलोड में हम जो एलिमेंट और डाटा दे रहे थे, हम पेलोड डायरेक्ट एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, तो पेलोड हम डायरेक्ट लिख सकते हैं ना.
हाँ, yeah, I actually forgot about it. Basically what I think Vikram is saying is कि यहाँ पे we are destructuring the older state. That means कि जब book पहली बार load हुआ, it's gonna destructure all this, and उसके ऊपर we can send the new payload, right?
यस.
हाँ, पर यहाँ पे एक छोटी सी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी होगी जो हमें फिक्स करनी होगी, वो होगी आईडी की, राइट? तो एक काम करते हैं यहाँ पे, पेलोड इक्वल्स टू ओरिजिनल पेलोड दैट्स फाइन, यहाँ पे एक आईडी भी ऐड कर देते हैं, तो लेट्स से मैथ डॉट रैंडम एंड टू फ्लोर टू फिक्स्ड, राइट? दिस विल बी two fixed, this will be 2 and 2 string. That's converted, right? So basically rather than making again another Axios का request, हम क्या कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे directly we are gonna do this exact thing, right? हम dispatch कर देंगे फटाक से यहाँ पे, right? पर rather than sending element dot data हम क्या करेंगे, हम directly payload भेज देंगे whichever we had over here, right? So yeah, that works. So again, let's try it quickly. So let's have 1, 2, 3, reading, submit, data added, and again, element is not defined. Sure, it might be a recurring error, but yeah, 1, 2, 3 is being added and it's showing, right? और पुराना data erase भी नहीं हुआ. Clear? And why is this working? Again, if you are confused here, in your book reducer, we are destructuring the original state. So whatever data we had, that is being destructured, and in payload we are sending the new data. This works. Clear? So via using Redux Thunk, you can directly do all the side effects in here. Is this clear, guys? Can you at least use Redux Thunk going forward? How many of us can now use Redux Thunk? Because it's nothing big. All you had to do was store में जाना था. You had to import apply middleware. You had to apply Thunk over here, and that's it. Now you can just directly return functions. You can directly accept dispatch, and everything else is same. Nothing was new, right? One or two lines of things that we have done differently. Clear? All right. Any doubts over here? No, all good.